Yesterday we learned that the Jewish people have the ability to reveal true meaning and blessing in the world, especially in the land of Israel. It's called a dwelling in the world. But in order to do that, we have to fight a battle. We have to fight a battle, an internal battle, external battle. We have to fight a battle. We have to fight against all of the forces which of, how do you say, egotism and selfishness and confusion that are dominant in the world. How do we do this? With the Torah. We have the Torah, we have the commandments, we have the godliness of the Torah and the godliness of the commandments. And also our attitude, prayer, charity, loving God, fearing God, having awe of God. But it's a tremendous battle to do these things because the enemy is everywhere, and the enemy is just nature. Just take it easy. Just take it easy. Just don't, just roll your boat down the stream. That's the enemy. The enemy is just let nature take over. Right? You're the boss. You're God. You do what you want to. That's the enemy. That's the enemy. So it ends up that we always constantly have to be fighting this battle in order to be better than what we are. It's like in sports. It's like in anything. I mean, basically, in music and sports and this, people are always trying to improve. You should. That's a sign of something is alive, that it grows. It grows physically. It grows emotionally. It grows intellectually. It grows. But in the case of the Jewish people, this can be called a war. A war. It doesn't have to be a war where you draw blood or whatever. It can be an intellectual war. It can be an emotional war. A war of ideas. A war of feelings, a war of this. So says the Rebbe, what type of a war is this? So that's the war that's spoken about in the beginning of our Torah portion. When you go out to war on your enemy. What is this talking about? It's talking about a war that the Jewish people had to make when they came to the land of Israel, making a war in the land of Israel. Rashi says there's two types of wars. One type of war is an obligatory war that you have to make. God said that to Joshua that he has to go and conquer the land of Israel from the 7 nations that are there, the 41 nations, 7 nations that are there, 7 areas that are there. That was an obligatory war. They had to go. But then there's also an optional war. Sometimes there's an optional war just to widen the boundaries of Israel, etc. There's optional wars. Says Rashi, this on our Torah portion that's talking about here is talking about an optional war. Optional war, you don't have to make it. You don't have to go to it. So the Rebbe says, what are you talking about? I mean, Rashi, he knows what he's talking about. Rashi is never wrong. There are sometimes opinions which disagree with him. They're also never wrong. According to the Torah, you can have 2, 4, 8, 50 opposing opinions, and all of them are correct. How can that be? Because we're talking about the Torah. We're talking about, it depends on who's saying. If it's a person that's God-fearing and he really wants to get to the bottom of what the Torah says, and he's really he's willing to defend his ideas. He has the ability to defend his ideas. That's what the whole Talmud is, to defend his ideas, and so that they have a basis in truth. So you kind of have a lot of opinions. Rashi says this war is talking about an optional war. But everywhere it says that this war is talking about the war the Jewish people are making, like I just finished telling you, in order to refine the world, purify the world, make the world a godly place. That's what Judaism is here for. That's not optional. That's obligatory. That's what we have to do. It's an obligation. How can it be? So the Rebbe says like this. It all comes from the essence of the Jewish people. What is the essence of the Jewish people? What are we? What are we Jews? What are we? Are we servants of God? Or are we God? Sons of God. We're called sons of God. But if we're servants of God, so we're servants, we're slaves. We don't deserve any reward. We just have to fight, right? That's obligation. We have an obligation. The master tells us what to do. We have an obligation. We have to do it. But in the essence of the Jewish souls, we're sons of God. And a son, it's not. It's more proper to say we're one with God. One with God. The Jewish people in God are chelik Hashem amo. The Jewish people are a portion of God. So from that, it ends up that we're not slaves, we're not servants, that we don't have to serve God. From that level of our soul, it's called an optional war. That where we're in the world and we're fixing up the world and we're purifying the world, we're doing Torah, we're doing commandments, it's an option. We're not doing it because we have to, because there's no commander. We're one with the commander, so to speak. We are the commander. So from that aspect, it's optional to do the Torah and the commandments. It's optional. That's from our essence. And when we do the commandments, then we deserve a reward. We didn't have to do them. Says the Rebbe that when a Jew does something because he wants to do it from his essence, it's much deeper than when he has to do it. When he has to do it. In fact, that's the whole essence of what Moshiach is that people will want to serve God. They'll want to do the right thing. That's what it says. Because the Jewish people are one with God's essence, therefore, by means of them, they can get the reward of making this world a dwelling for God in the world. The idea of the Moshiach. But it might be a little bit hard for us to understand what this is because, let's say when the time of the Holy Temple was, then people felt this. But the Holy Temple, that was 2,000 years ago, more than the first temple was like 2,600 years ago, 700 years ago. It's a long time ago, right? The temple. It was long time ago. That feeling, so what are we supposed to feel? So maybe an example is, let's say someone who was born, a lot of times you have this children that are born sick. They're born sick. They're born with a heart condition. They're born with this condition. God forbid should never be such a thing. So let's say the child is born like this. He doesn't know anything different. He's born with this condition. He's almost totally blind. He can't see anyone around him. He can't see anything, but he's kept in the hospital and he's got these tubes to keep him alive. Right? So he's without senses. But he has certain senses that he has when he eats. He feels, satisfied and hears music a little bit. So that's nice. He feels, and he can see very vaguely shapes, so he's sort of aware. So that's what, and he gets used to it, right? He gets used to it. He grows up, he's 20 years old, 30 years old, 50 years old, and he thinks that's what reality is. And he gets used to it, right? He maybe likes this type of music, maybe like this type of food, right? And this type of shapes, he likes the color green, the color blue, whatever it is. And that's what his life is. That's what it is. Suddenly someone comes along and says, I know what your problem is, and I have a cure for it. You have to just press on this nerve, and you have to take this type of a pill and this type of an ointment. And he doesn't, all of a sudden, the child comes back to being a normal person. He can see, he can hear, he can speak, he can taste, he can walk, he can talk. Suddenly he's healthy. Now, this was always waiting for him to be healthy. Suddenly he's healthy. It's incomparable to the situation that he was. Before, in a situation, he couldn't even imagine what being healthy was. He couldn't imagine it. You can actually read books and actually talk to people. I'm just giving an example. That's what the whole world is now. The whole world is sort of like in this comatose state, but really it's much more distant than that, because at least the child, in my example that I gave, they grow, at least he sees shapes, he sees something, right? We don't see anything. There are people who are tzaddikim, the Rebbes, or whatever, that they see, and they're trying to explain to us what's going on. The famous what is the parable of the cave, right? With Plato's cave, and you just see vague shadows of what real reality really is. Well, the reality is. So what the Rebbe is trying to say is the purpose of the Jews is to make the world a healthy place. Simply to make the world a healthy place. To make it healthy. Healthy means that you don't think about yourself. A person who's sick, he always thinks about himself. This hurts me, that hurts me, I think. And the healthy means you never think about yourself. You're only thinking about the Creator. You're thinking about why am I here? What can I do? And that, says the Rebbe, that is accomplished when the Jewish people realize that they're one with God. And the service that we're doing is to open up our will, serving God from our will. And then our will awaken God's will. It'll inspire more people. And people will start to serve God from their will. That's what's called the reward. That's the redemption. According to the service that we do, also the reward will be the same, commensurate to our work. Schar mitzvah, mitzvah. The reward for a commandment is a commandment. The reward for a commandment is the fact that we're doing a commandment of God. We're connected to God. The greatest reward you could possibly have is to be created to God. Is to be connected to God, connected to the Creator. You feel. After the Alter Rebbe explains that the whole purpose of creating the world is that God desires that he should have a dwelling in the physical world. As Moshiach, he continues and says, the days of the Moshiach, and especially when the raising of the dead, which that's the completion, this is in the Tanya, chapter 37, in the world, but that the goal of it is when, especially when the rising of the dead, but that's the whole completion of the creation of the world. The world that's when the world will be really healthy. It'll be the way it's supposed to be. Therefore, it was created in the beginning. Well, Moshiach, the Alter Rebbe, continues in the chapter after that this is in the days of the Mashiach and the raising of the dead. It depends on our deed. This is what it says over here is chapter 36, and this is chapter 37. It all depends on our deeds and our service all the time of exile. Because what causes the reward for a commandment is the commandment itself. When the commandment is done, a person draws down a revelation of God from above to below to be enclosed in the physical world. In other words, the tash l'maschar, that the reward of our service in this world is tochen in yaneh shel avoda atzmo, is the service itself. Gilui elokus b'olam, revealing God in the world. What happens when we serve God? We're aware that God exists. We're aware that God creates us. We're aware that God wants us to do things. He's giving us responsibility. We're aware that God gets pleasure from what we do. That's the work. What's the reward? The reward is we're aware that God exists. We're aware that God creates us. And all these things that we're just spoken about, which causes us to serve God, that's the reward. We feel the Creator. That's what means that God has a dwelling in this physical world. According to this, we can explain the command, what it says in the commandment, that if someone works for you, you have to give him his wages daily. Right? Unless you make a condition otherwise, as if you have workers, you have to pay them at the end of the day when they finish their work. The same thing applies with God. So how can it be the reward for our work is Moshiach and the raising of the dead? The reward. And God is supposed to pay us. He hasn't paid us for thousands of years. God is supposed to do the commandments as well as we do them. It says, why? Because since that by means of doing a commandment, and every single commandment, you draw down a revelation of the essence of God in the world. That's the reward. The reward is the fact that you could do a commandment. You get paid instantly. Lo rak midei yom yom, not just every day at the end of the day, but by means of doing the commandment itself is the reward. You feel that you're actually doing what God wants, and you're not limited to doing just what you want. That's what's called the future redemption. Geula pratit, as far as each and every person is concerned. It depends on our awareness. It's like everything else. And this is the main thing, Shagam, the reward in Shala'et Ata, now is, it says the big reward the raising of the dead and everything, we also get that. But it's in a trust fund. It's closed up in a chest. It's closed up in a box. Nimsak, so comes out, the Baaluto shall Paul, but it ends up that it is in our possession of each and every Jew. Not only that, you can open it up whenever you want to and have a peek inside. By means of this, it adds also another mitzvah. By means of this, you can tilt yourself and the whole entire world to the side of merit. Goram lo, and you can cause yourself and to the others salvation to the world. So what's going on? I put on tefillin today. I put on tefillin yesterday. I did till the day before. Every time I do to put on tefillin, what happens? Absolutely nothing. I put these boxes on my arm, and that's it. It leaves a little trace on my arm, right? Yeah, that's what happens if you're stupid. If you're stupid, you don't open your mind. You don't think about it. Okay, so you don't have to think about it. But the fact of the matter is that big, amazing things are happening. You're connecting yourself to the creator of the universe. You're giving pleasure to the creator of the universe. You're uniting the world with the creator of the universe and the creator of the universe with the world. When you do a commandment, you don't feel it, think about it a little bit. If you think about a little bit what you're doing, then you'll realize it's an amazing accomplishment every time you do a commandment. They say that the Ramban, he lived, what was it, 800 years ago, something like that, the Ramban, Reb Moses ben Nachman. He's got a commentary on the Torah. He says he was the last of the true Kabbalists, Makubalim. Anyway, he says that when he would put on tefillin, maybe in his older age, when he would put on tefillin, he had to have his pupils, his helpers, keep him steady, because sometimes he would faint. But thinking about what was happening when he was putting on tefillin. And by means of this, it adds even more. You add one more. Not only that, it says that's what you get immediately. But in addition to that, you're giving God pleasure. You don't feel you're giving God pleasure, but the fact of the matter is that it's there, and it's entrusted to you. You gave God pleasure, and that adds on one more commandment that eventually will tilt the whole world. Maimonides says that everyone should look at life, that the whole world is on a very, very delicate balance. And one more good deed can tilt the whole entire world over. How many people are there in the world? I see different numbers all the time. Let's say there's 8.5 billion people in the world, right? And everyone in the world is suffering from confusion and from delusion and from the addictions, all sorts of crazy things in the world, right? You do one more good deed, and all of a sudden people don't have so much of an urge anymore to do bad. People don't have so much of an urge anymore to be confused or to be afraid or to be paranoid or to be angry. Suddenly the whole thing tilts. That's the whole idea of Moshiach coming and revealing the good inside of every human being. One more good deed could tilt the whole thing. One more good deed. And every time we do a good deed, that adds a little bit more. Says the Rebbe, we don't see it adding anything. So the Rebbe says it's like having $1 million entrusted to you in the bank. And you can go and see it anytime you want to. You just can't take out the money whenever you want to all the time, but it's yours. No one else can touch it. It says you can open up to this. By means of that, you add on another commandment that tilts the whole world, the merit of the whole world, that can bring salvation to everyone. But Geula Amiti, the true redemption by means of the Moshiach, the true redemption by means of Moshiach, that then in the days of the Moshiach, and especially when the dead come back to life, will be revealed what you did, what you accomplished when you did the commandments. Gilui Orin Sof, a revelation of the essence of God in this physical world. That's the commandments. Like it says, Nigla Kavod Avaya, Baruch Kol Basar Yachav, like it says in Isaiah, that the glory of God will be revealed. All flesh will see together that God is creating everyone. Here's 55. Isaiah chapter 40. In addition to this, the receiving the reward, we also get right now, we get the reward. Like it says, on the very day you have to give, the boss has to give the workers pay immediately. What did it mean? That when you do a commandment, you can feel you can feel that I am doing what the essence of God wants. That's the reward of the tzaddikim in the future. Tomorrow to receive a reward. I mean, you can think about it for 1 second. Where do the commandments come from? So you could say, okay, maybe the commandments, they just came from the rabbis. They made it up. He says, no. You see in the Gemara, in the Talmud, that the rabbis are talking about, they're discussing what the commandments are in detail. So the commandments were there before, right? They were before. Okay, the commandments that were given by Moses. Moses went up on Sinai and he made the whole thing up. He made the whole thing up and he gave it, and the rabbis just continued it on. See, you know what? Okay, could be. But it's very hard to say that, the Jews stubbornly would give their lives for this. They've been fooled. They've been thinking God gave it. They've been fooled for all these times. But it could be. Let's say it could be. It could be. That's one way of looking at it. But let's look at it the other way. That God himself gave the commandments. And what are the commandments? You can say two things. Either the commandments were arbitrary. He just sort of gave them and then just, keep the Jews occupied. Or maybe the commandments are connected to God's essence. And God is not a person. He's not a thing. God's essence, that's the reason why God is creating the world. God's essence expressed itself by creating this whole world and putting us inside of it, because the commandments are God's essence will above the world. The world is also God's will, but external. Maybe it's true. Think about it. Think about it. Contemplate. Should I take the commandments seriously or not? And if I do take them seriously, is it just religious that I should do it because I'm a Jew? Or maybe it's God. And if it's God, maybe it's God back then. Maybe it's God right now. If you think that it's God right now, then, says the Rebbe, you got the truth. You got the truth. Then you can, that's the reward right now. When you do the commandment, you feel this is the reward right now I'm getting. But the big reward is the whole general reward by means of, from our service of the Jewish people and all the generations in the course of the 6,000 years of this world, including also the reward for the service of the Jewish people in the days of the Moshiach, and especially the service of the Jews when the dead rise up. What do you mean the dead rise up? Who's going to raise up? All of the Jewish people from all of the generations will realize they didn't really die. They'll be, but physically in bodies. Sha'az davka, then will be a true learning of Torah and doing the commandments, completion. It says the commandments will be, there won't be any commandments in the future. It says there won't be a commandment. It means there won't be commandments as far as there being commandments. There'll be automatic expressions of our connection to God. Then the commandments will be done in the ultimate completion, because the commandments are not just, to hold us over or something like that. Your plane gets stopped, so you get a card that you can buy in the food in the airport, in the airport restaurant or something like that. And that's what the commandments are. They're to hold us over. Now we're in exile. It's not so. But it's not that the commandments are just there, because we're in exile. The plane got stalled for a while, and just here you got the cards that you can go and redeem them and buy. That's what the commandments are. It's not so. The commandments come from the essence of God. They're here before the world was here. The whole purpose of the world is that Jews should do the commandments. That's the whole essence of what the Jewish people are. Then the commandments, so when Moshiach comes and the dead rise up, then for sure there'll be commandments. The commandments weren't just a temporary thing to hold us over. The commandments came from the essence of God. Then the learning of Torah. The Torah, that's what it means. The Torah will be a new Torah. What does it mean it'll be new? The inside, the soul of the Torah, the true essence of the Torah, the godliness of the Torah will be not just something we believe in, it'll be something that we feel. The secrets of the hidden mystery secrets which are in the Torah will be revealed. And when we do the commandments, in addition to the idea of doing the commandments, we're talking about doing the commandments in the days of the Moshiach and the raising of the dead. It says, even doing the commandments that depend on coming to the land of Israel and taking it over, like I said before, then there will be an additional completion in the commandments that will feel that is commitzvah ritzonecha. We are really doing the inner will of God. So we won't be thinking about ourselves. And a little bit deeper way of looking at this, we can see in the service itself We can see this whole idea of raising of the dead. We can see it also a little bit right now, even before it comes to the reward of the days of the Moshiach and etc. Immediately when we start to serve God, we can also feel this whole business of the raising of the dead and the God. How so? Like we said, because al pi al more, like we said, that the service of God and the reward for serving God is the same, is one thing. By means of the service of Avodatam Shel Yisrael, that the Jewish people are one with God's essence. This brings about a revelation of God's essence in the world. So if so, this is shaykh relevant, gam also to the situation which is the state of the world, lifnei hatchalat avodah, even before you start to serve God, even before the creation of the world. Because before the world was created, Hayahu Levado, God was alone, Yachid Yuchad, and he was totally unified. There was nothing except for God. We have no idea what this means, but there was true reality. What we're living in is a created reality. It's not real reality. God filled up all of the existence, but there's a big novelty. What was the novelty was that because of this, God even began to create the world, decided to create the world. Why did God decide to create the world? Because what motivated him? That by means of the service of the Jewish people, which the Jewish people are one with God, in the world becomes a new thing. God's essence becomes revealed in the world, a dwelling place for God in the world. So it comes out to be this very weird, strange thing. Namely what? That what we are doing right now is infinite. What we are doing right now is not something that's here today and gone tomorrow. That the present fades away into the past. It's not so. The present is eternal. To us, it fades away into the past because we're not living in true reality. But true reality is that every second is eternal. Every second is eternal. So it ends up that this world is going to be 6,000 years, how long the world will exist. And the world started at a certain time, but it's not so. The world did not start at a certain time. Time started. Time began. Time did not begin at a certain time. Before time started the world, there was no time. We have no idea what that could possibly mean. So it means that every instant that the world exists, the world is being brought into existence from God's infinite will. That infinite will is always there. So when we do a commandment right now, we're partaking a little bit of this infinite reality that was there before the world was created. That's the reason why God created it. This also, we can also be filled already before we start to serve God. Shavodatam Shel Yisrael, the service of the Jewish people in this world, it doesn't begin when now, or even after the world was created, or after we were born. But this is Mamad Umatzav Ha'atid, what's going to be in the future, what's the future to come, that this is like something that was in the past. What does it mean? In the past, God already foresaw, already experienced, whatever it is, that the oneness of God in the world. That's what motivated him to create the world. So what was before the world is the situation of the world afterward, namely the complete revelation of God in the world. So if so, there's no such thing as time. The past is the future, and the future that was there in the past. And that's what we're partaking. Every single Jew is partaking of this when we do a commandment. The commandment is reality, true reality of God. And God is not limited by time. Time is just a creation of God. And our purpose is to put into time above time. So every instant of time becomes infinite. Shenikar should be recognized in the Jewish people that the true essence of a Jew, before the soul came into the world, before the world was created, that every Jew is one with the essence of God. Even the biggest sinners of Judaism, the worst people, that's why it says every Jew has a portion in the world to come. Every Jew. The world to come is talking about the raising of the dead. So we can so the nikar ba'olam, and you can see that in the world, you can feel in the world that God is alone. God fills all being. There is really no such thing as time and space as far as being limited goes. It's all God's mind. God, Shabora Bo, that God created the world with his infinity. By means of this, when you think of this before you start to do a commandment, that everything was already there before, and everything that's the goal which is going to be afterwards, that we are partaking in infinitely true reality when you do a commandment. By means of this, it'll be easier to do the intention of what God wanted when he created the world, namely to make this world into a dwelling. That's what was in the Holy Temple. People went to the Holy Temple and they felt that there's a creator that's creating us, that loves us. He's creating us from love. Every single person, non-Jews also. That's why we long so much for the third temple, as we'll talk about more, God willing, tomorrow.